ReconCast, episode 13.
Hello everyone, welcome to ReconCast, just a couple of homeschool dads talking about recovering the faith for all of life. I am Joe Graham, homeschool father of 9. And joining me is my co-host Dan Stachofsky. He's a homeschool father of 6. We are out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest raising our families, defending liberty and justice against the overrun of humanism and the secular state. We got a really great show for you today. Today's show, we're going to have a great interview with Jason Diffner. He wrote an amazing book about multi-generational families. It's going to be a really, really good one. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. Getting us started to talk about that, let me bring in my wonderful co-host with a fantastic 5 o'clock shadow, Mr. Dan Stachofsky.
Hey, Joe. Great to be with you today.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
How you doing,
Appreciate
buddy?
that. Pretty good. I've been working on that 5 o'clock for, quite a few days. So
yeah.
Feeling good about now.
Hey, I'm really excited about this episode today for many reasons. The least of which is the most of which.
Tell me what it's about, and I'll tell you which one to choose.
Is our interview with Jason.
Most of which.
The most of which. Okay, thank you.
We want to interview more people. We don't want the interviews to stop, so we should probably say that is the highlight.
Okay, yeah. So interviews are great. We love doing interviews. We love getting out there and talking to other homeschool dads. So you need to stay with us for this episode for many reasons, the most of which is the interview that we have coming up with Jason Diffner. He wrote a book. I'm holding it in my hands right here. It's called Families in Covenant Succession, a Manual for Multi-Generational Faithfulness. And it's got this really great picture of this very hip, modern suburbia family on the cover of it, which I know he's very happy about. You'll have to ask him about it when you see him, because he's not too thrilled about the picture. But inside it's got a ton of really great stuff. So anyways, I had a great opportunity to talk with him. Hey, I want to let you guys know that I really hope that you get a chance to share our podcast with your friends, right? And preferably with dads. I really would hope that you would share this podcast with other homeschooling dads out there, because as homeschool dads know, we have a lot of stuff going on in our life, and there's just a lot of various interesting, quirky things that sometimes are happening in our families, and we want to go and talk about some of that stuff that's going on. We want to engage with you. We want to hear back from you. We want to know what kind of questions you have, and we want to have this discussion with everybody. So Dan and I both were on board here, and we love doing this, right? We love talking about homeschool dad stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a highlight for us. Something we've been doing for a little while, and we just want to continue to do it. But we want to get more engaged with you guys. We want to hear from the audience and really start to get that two-way conversation going with you. Love to hear from you, and love to have you share with other families and dads who you think would be encouraged by this. We have a lot going on, like Joe said. Here on this show is an opportunity to talk about that. How do dads process all the many things that are going on? And Joe, we have many things going on.
Yeah.
So what all do you have going on?
Well, one thing that I thought of specifically is, since we're talking about homeschool dads, like, it's February and homeschool conference season is coming.
Woohoo!
Right?
Woohoo!
And
oh yeah, we love this.
And so homeschool dads, like, they prep for homeschool conferences, because, like, this is something that really our community comes together around a lot. Like, if you don't have a homeschool conference in your area, I think you're missing out. You got to get to one. You got to go.
You really do. Yeah, I mean, homeschool conferences are a highlight. They're great. There's a lot that I love about them. They bring a lot of really good teachers together in one place for a weekend. They're focused on the things that we care about. We're trying to learn, how do we raise our children? How do we raise our family in this environment? And though they might be called homeschool conferences, they're really about discipleship.
Yeah.
How do we be disciples ourselves? And how do we disciple our children? And by doing that, you're actually around a whole group of people who are all focused and thinking about the same thing, and they're immediate friends.
Yep.
And we've been going to this conference out here in the Northwest, the Christian Heritage Conference, for I think this will be our 10th or 11th year now.
Wow.
And I almost go now to hear the speakers, but it's also to see those families that we've become friends with year over year, and it's such a source of encouragement and edification that I don't get anywhere else.
Yeah,
it's a huge blessing.
Yeah, definitely homeschool families for sure. Sometimes we can feel a little bit kind of isolated. Not everybody is really sold in or bought into the idea that there's no one better suited to educate your family than a mom and a dad, and so people are very, very likely to turn their kids over to public school or state school. And so when homeschoolers come together, they really, really identify with people that they're like, these are my people. These are my people. You know, and you can always tell, like you go to homeschool conference, they got the gigantic vans, and they're everywhere. There's just, you know, there's people, there's children. That's one of the number one things you see. So many children. You know, there's like probably 1,000 people at the conference, and 200 of them are parents. You know, it's just wild.
Yeah, I love seeing the children. I also love seeing the grandparents. It's so encouraging to see the multi-generations represented in some of the families that come. Not all families are able to do that. My parents don't live in the area, so they're not able to come. But my in-laws, actually, my father-in-law does come every once in a while, and it's just neat to see the continuation. And what a message does that send to our children, that we're not alone. This isn't a crazy thing that we're doing. This is actually biblical. There's many other people who also see it as biblical, and I think it encourages their faith and helps them see that this is important. So, but as dads, we always have to be thinking one step ahead of our families, and we say, how do we make this conference memorable?
Yeah.
What are we doing to make it memorable? Joe, what do you do to make it memorable? What are you thinking about?
Well, definitely we try. We get a hotel room and we stay down there near where the conference is. So it kind of turns into like a big weekend event for us. We stay because we live a little bit far away from where the conference is. So they get a full weekend being there. And you know, the kids really just love seeing a lot of their friends, the people that they know that are other homeschool families. They love it. They have a good time. I think actually at this conference that we have, they go to a dance. There's actually a dance afterwards that some of the families have organized at one of the hotels. So we stay at that hotel, and there's like a big potluck at the end of the last night, and then there's homeschool kids like dancing, you know, in a big giant concrete parking garage until like 2 a.m. with a bunch of people standing around. It's like a huge big thing. They love it.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they have a great time. I think that we're going to have to interview some people when we have the homeschool conference, and maybe we'll put that out as like a video or something, and maybe we can do a podcast at the homeschool conference. It would be crazy.
That would be awesome. I'd love to do a live podcast from the conference.
Yeah, so maybe we could stream it.
If
we get to 1,000 subscribers before the conference happens, then I can YouTube stream it. Otherwise we'll Facebook Live it or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Well, and I mean, if you're in the Northwest or anywhere within the local area of the Northwest, I really encourage you to come out to the conference we go to. We go to Christian Heritage Conference. It's in Redmond area, and I think it's the last weekend in April.
Yep.
You gotta come. If you're in the area, come. It's a source of encouragement. There's a lot of like-minded people. There's folks from all areas of the region. Some people come from California, some come down from Canada. It's so much fun. So we'll be there.
I'll be there.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll even get you on the podcast.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff.
We did an RV trip there one time, and that was a lot of fun. I think the kids loved that. We actually had a newborn there, so my wife was able to take care of everything that the newborn needed really closely because we just did the RV. So there's all sorts of trips. You can do a road trip. You can make it a lot of fun. But if there's a conference in your local area, I really encourage you guys, make the effort, go there this year. Yeah. I think you'll get encouraged.
Yeah. before the homeschool conference is coming up, we have another conference coming up in April, and that's going to be the Neurodevelopment Conference that's going to be happening on April 1st. Dan, can you tell us a little bit about the Neurodevelopment Conference? No, he can't tell us about it right now. Okay. Well, we do have some other meetings that are going to be coming up this year. I'm in the works right now, planning with some other men to have a Pacific Northwest Reconstructionist meeting. That's going to be in May. So that will actually be after the conference occurs. It's going to be a very informal. It's not going to be like conference-like. It's just going to be kind of just a bunch of people getting together and talking about stuff. So that's coming up in May. If you do happen to be in the Pacific Northwest and you want to participate, you can just email me at extremedad@reconstructionlife.com, and I can give you the details about that. But we're in the process of planning that one right now. That's going to be in May sometime. But got some other stuff that's been going on here. So in case you haven't noticed, we're probably showing up in some people's feed as an already established podcast, and that's because we have partnered with Reconstructionist Radio and joined their team of amazing podcasters to be a part of their feed. So we're going to help. We're going to provide that homeschool dad context for living the faithful life, and they've got a bunch of other podcasts that they've got going on there. People that are doing stuff from the War Room and preschooler stuff, and Bojadar's doing Acts to the Root, and Nathan Conkey's got the Post-Millennialism Report. They've got a bunch of audio books that they have on there from a lot of good, solid Christian theologians, so you can just listen to stuff if you can't, reading sometimes it takes a little bit longer. So really happy, really excited to be joining them on their feed and in their lineup. And so if you're hearing us for the first time in that feed, then that's why, because we're partnered up with them. So pretty excited about that. It's going to be great. We've been doing a couple things also in the meantime. We've one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is Dan and I had the great chance to get together and record a video. It wasn't just any video; it was an inspired video. It was a dude perfect inspired video, dude. It was a blast. Oh man. That was great. Yeah, and we're kind of we were kind of watching some Dude Perfect videos the night before, and we're like, hey, we could do this. We could do a Dude Perfect video. So we totally just like, hey, let's grab the kids, let's go out in the backyard, and let's start throwing footballs around and stuff like that. And so, man, we had a great time. So if you haven't got a chance to see that, go to our YouTube channel and you can kind of see us throwing stuff around, being dads, having a good time with the kids. So anyway, stay tuned. Keep listening in to here at ReconCast. We hope you guys stick with us. We're going to come right back. We'll be here on the other side of the break. All right? Thanks.
My name is Andrea Schwartz, and I have been active in Christian education for over 35 years, having homeschooled my 3 children all the way through high school. Now that they are all graduated and grown, I spend my time mentoring women, helping them become the best teachers for their children. I hold online office hour meetings every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time using the Zoom platform. These get-togethers provide homeschooling moms the opportunity to ask questions and get advice in areas they may struggle with as they educate their children. And for those contemplating homeschooling, they can discover how to get started and stay the course. Each week, I will cover a specific area, but the bulk of the time will be spent addressing issues most pressing to you. These meetings are free, but you must register to participate. Search on Facebook for the event entitled Weekly Office Hours with Andrea Schwartz, and then click on Get Tickets.
Hey there is a great opportunity for parents coming to the Seattle area on April 1st. If your child suffers from brain injury, brain damage, learning delays, cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, attention deficit disorder, developmental delays, or Down syndrome, then please plan on joining me and several other families on April 1st for a seminar with neurodevelopmentalist Cyndi Ringoen. Cyndi, who is part of the International Christian Association of Neurodevelopmentalists, and www.icando.org, brings decades of experience to the discussion to help give you and me, the parents, answers and real steps to help heal our children from these challenges. It's true, progress can be made. I've seen it in my own child's life, and I know it can be done in your child's too. It can be a brighter future than what mainstream medicine tells you. And it's without drugs, and it's a therapy program that's managed and directed by you, the parents at home. This seminar will be in the greater Seattle area on April 1st. To find out more, contact me, Dan Stachofsky, at dan@olivegrove.us, or view our group page on Facebook, Seattle Area Neurological Development Community. We hope to see you on April 1st, and we seek to help our children grow into all God created them to be.
All right, guys, we're back here at ReconCast. Going to get back to some of the old bits we've done here when we first started out. First one up is an oldie but goldie, Kid Theology. This is where we go ahead and talk about the kinds of stuff that our kids ask us that just kind of throw us for a loop, and we're kind of put in a position of saying, hey, Dad, let's go, resident theologian of the household, let's go, answer it up. So, Dad, you got what do you got here for us? First, Kid Theology.
Well, I've got a question that at first glance doesn't sound theological at all, but that's what I love about Kid Theology. There's always theology in every question.
Yeah.
So, lovely daughter, one of my many daughters, we had some friends coming down for the weekend, and we need to get rid of the house ready, but it was also snack time, and here my beautiful daughter goes, Mommy, should I eat my snack first or get the house clean and ready for our guests? I mean, just honest. It's true kid honesty right there.
That's a legitimate question.
It is.
In my mind. I ask my wife the same question every time we have a guest coming over.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot here for all of us to learn from.
Should I finish doing what I'm doing now, or should I prepare for the guests?
Yeah,
and it's a good thing she's not here on this podcast right now, because she might have something interesting to say about it.
Yeah, I love the honesty of the children, and so here's the theology behind that though. Do we serve ourselves or do we serve others? Are we going to put others first? Are we going to have a home of hospitality? And that's what's important, and that's what we get to get value from, and really bless others. And we know we're furthering the kingdom by blessing others and being that home of hospitality. Or are we going to worry about ourselves? Are we going to take care of ourselves first and be selfish in nature and allow that sin nature to come out? And so from a simple question, one, yes, we laughed about it because it's a very, very adorable, honest question. But at the same time, we were able to have a great, honest conversation with our daughter about, hey, do you understand what's kind of behind your question and what's motivating that question, and helped her kind of process what should be the right answer. And there was an opportunity to disciple, and that's what Kid Theology presents us. So that was a fun opportunity. Yeah, do I eat my snack first, or do I have to go get ready for a guest?
What did you decide?
Oh, go ahead and eat your snack. No.
Of course you can finish your snack. Understanding that you need to serve.
We said, yeah, just go serve now. Your snack will be here, and it'll taste even better knowing that the house is all clean and ready for the visitors.
And then probably when you left your snack, in that time period in between, somebody threw it away because you were gone cleaning. There was nobody eating.
Well, we had to clean the counter. So
oh yeah, so your snack went away.
It's either the snack got thrown away or somebody else ate it, but that's not our problem. So
that's beside the point.
That was a different question, but we won't have that. There's a
principle involved here that we're trying to teach. Okay, all right, okay. Selfishness leads to blessing. Okay,
be a blessing. Be a blessing.
Nice. All right. Go, Dad.
Yeah, thanks. Okay,
cool.
How about you?
So for us, we were doing a family worship here, like you do, and we were talking about Romans 8. Was like, this really super important part of Romans 8. And we were like climaxing this huge climax of Romans 8, and we were getting to to verse 31. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? And we're going through, and then I very pointedly asked one of the kids. I asked, my 6-year-old daughter, honey, if God is for us, who could be against us? And she kind of looks up at me. Satan.
Oh, yes.
I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. But I said the next question, but who shall bring any charge against God's elect? She said, Satan.
Yes. Great question. Great answer.
I said, yes, honey, but it's God who justifies. Who's going to condemn us? Satan.
Mm-hmm. She's on fire right now. She's just so proud of herself. She's like, I'm getting all these right. Totally getting these right.
And then I realized that I'm like, well, the Bible does use rhetorical questions, doesn't it? I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of in a sense right, but in a sense, the answer should be no, nobody, right? So
yeah, nobody, yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of had to have this discussion, be like, okay, no, Satan does try to bring a condemnation against us, and he does try to bring us this persecution and famine, or danger or whatever, but nobody can do anything to us or against us if God is for us. Like, if you had to pick someone to be in your corner, you would pick God, because God is going to protect you. He's going to care for you. And if God loves you, then you're good. Like, that's the key, right? So it could have gone, like a little hairy there for a bit. But yeah, I was like, oh, that's okay.
Well,
okay.
I love, she's got that awareness of our enemy is Satan. He's our enemy. And he's going to try to attack us. And no, it's not going to work. But that's great. Just drive home that point. That's so sweet.
Yeah. We didn't get to the second half of the verse. We didn't get to the rest of what happened. That'll come up tomorrow when we do our family worship again. So maybe I'll kind of let her dwell on it a little bit.
Let her chew on it. There you go. Let her chew on it.
It's okay. So cool. All right. So the next bit that we have here is our worst week excuses. And I had something that happened to me recently. There was with one of my older children. Mm-hmm. We have this agreement with my oldest son that we will help him, take him to karate, and we take him Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he worked out a deal for paying for it with the sensei of the dojo. And so that's fine. But then all of a sudden this appointment comes up on Tuesday. And I was like, I asked my wife, I said, why did this appointment come up on Tuesday? That I don't understand what's going on. She's like, I don't really know either. He said it was something that we talked about, and I don't really get it. Because you know what, kids, moms and dads, they talk to each other.
Oh yeah, we're on the same page.
And they talk about these things. They're like, hey, did you have a conversation with so-and-so about this thing? And they'll be like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that happening. So you can't really play mom and dad against each other. So anyway, we execute the thing, and then I go and pick up my son, and I bring him back, and I say, hey, son, so how was it? How was the thing? He's like, oh, great, we're going to do it again next week. And I was like, whoa. Did you clear this through anybody? Like, we didn't talk about you doing this on this other day. Then he's like, yeah, we did. I talked to mom about it. She knows about it. It's like,
totally talked about it. Yeah, maybe not with you, but no, we talked about it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh, with mom. I talked about it with mom.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, no, because I checked with mom.
Oh, what?
And
wait, what? Oh, I see. Here's a go. Whoa. Time out. You talk. Don't talk to her, Dad. Don't talk to her.
You're like, no, I talked to her. It's like, nope. I talked to your mom, and she didn't know anything about this. And now you're telling me it's going to be a consistent thing? It's like, it doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. So no, if this is something that you'd like to do, then we can go ahead and discuss it. But it doesn't quite work like that, where you can just say, oh yeah, no, I talked to mom. Because guess what? I talked to mom.
Uh-oh.
And so you can't pull that.
And
when they so
yeah.
that it's kind of like an excuse, but it's kind of almost like a teenage, like a quick swap, like a, you can't really see what I'm doing. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing, but I know. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. We run into that a little bit. Our kids are a little younger, so they kind of aren't as sly in the fact that they might actually ask the other, like my wife, when she's just in the other room and I hear it, and they'll get a no, and then they come over to me and ask the same question, but I heard the answer, and I say, "Whoa, time out. We don't ask the same question, the same, hoping for a different answer." So it's interesting what children do, and I think as dads, our job is benefited greatly by our wives when we take a moment to talk to them, like you did. It's like, hey, just want to validate and double check this happened. I think it really is healthy communication. It validates your wife's position and her role as your support and as your co-lead of the family. And when we fail to do that as dads, we really miss out on a huge opportunity to just partner with our wives and to help our children in their being honest and having integrity, which is a huge part of our faith. So love that. That is a worst week excuse though. That's
Yeah,
definitely
pretty poor excuse.
Some of our worst week excuses are actually humorous. That one is doesn't quite hit the humorous, but it does touch on a key point around husband-wife conversation.
Yeah, you guys got to be on the same page, right? For sure.
Absolutely.
So, so it's good. So for this week, we had the wonderful opportunity to interview a good friend of the show, Jason Diffner. He is the author of Families in Covenant Succession, the manual for multi-generational faithfulness, and Jason, he has a great story about what kind of path he's been on. And if you are familiar with other Reconstructionist authors, there's another author out there called Gary North, and he felt a burden to write about a particular field that wasn't really done from a Christian perspective, and that was in economics. And so he provided the first economic commentary of the Bible, known economic commentary of the Bible. And even though Jason wasn't specifically focused on economics, he kind of had a burden in the same area. He decided after much research that there wasn't much that was in the way of Christian-focused literature about multi-generational faithfulness. So if you've been in these homeschooling communities for a little bit of time, you'll kind of start to realize and understand that a lot of these speakers are talking about fathers turning their hearts back to their children and the children turning their hearts to the fathers. And the purpose of this turning back is to continue to advance the kingdom, but to advance from a united, dominion-oriented front, where we're collaborating resources in a trustee type of relationship and not in an individual type of relationship. A lot of us parents in the environments that we grew up in kind of seem to think about ourselves very individually. It's just kind of like individual pieces, but not as being part of a giant puzzle, but just being like our own little individual pieces, and we have to kind of go off on our own. So Jason also kind of felt this, and he talks about that in his book. You can pick it up through our website or through the link here for the podcast today. And he talks about his growth into this idea of multi-generational faithfulness and then where it's kind of taking him. It's really, really good, really fascinating stuff. He's a great guy to talk to, a fantastic brother. Have you had a chance to think about some of these ideas and concepts? I know that you've probably been affected by this too, Dan, the multi-generational faithfulness idea.
Oh, absolutely. Actually went to a conference it was a weekend retreat, actually, that Jason sponsored and hosted here, I think just maybe 2 years ago, where he kind of talked through some of the things that he discussed in the book, and it is phenomenal. I'll read you a quote that I wrote down at the time, just to give you a sense of it. The beauty of thinking multi-generationally, it's so countercultural, like you said. I mean, we're all Keynesians at heart, right? We're all our Western culture is so focused on just self, and we think the ends is ourselves, and we're just living this one life, and it's all just right now. You see that the tear down of the family and all of that with no-fault divorce or even abortion. It really is all about ourselves, and yet here is a whole different perspective, a whole different presupposition that God has established the family, and that the family is eternal and it's multi-generational, and that we need to be focused on that. So here, I'll read you this quote that I had written down. It says, "A reasonable, well thought out codification for how to design and plan a dominion-minded, godly, multi-generational family that is at complete odds with Plato or Rousseau or the UN. Praise God for that." And that's who we interviewed. A guy who wrote a book about that. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, no, he was doing a great job, and I love to hear him when he talks about it. He's like, oh yeah, multi-generational faithfulness. Yeah, no, I wrote the book on it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, but yeah, we had a great time. Good interview with Jason. I hope to get him back here on the show soon. But this interview that we had here very recently with Jason Diffner is coming up. Hope you guys enjoy it. Here it is. All right, I'm here with Jason Diffner. He is a homeschool dad of 5 children. He lives out here in the Pacific Northwest. He's currently a commercial insurance agent. And he works out of home. He has an amazing passion for multi-generational families, and he ended up actually writing a book about the subject, which we'll get to here in a second. And he has a heart for the kingdom of God and the expansion of it, but focusing kind of in a local context. So, Jason, thank you for joining me. Welcome to the show.
And thank you for having me, Joe. Thank you. Yes.
So, this idea, this concept of multi-generational families, can you just explain what in the world does this mean, and why is it so important?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I love talking about this. Sometimes after studying so much, I kind of assume other people know, but they don't. Yeah. It takes a while to get at. Probably one way of describing or getting into it is that as families, we think of our nuclear families, whether we realize it or not, we have a heritage and we have an influence that will last multi-generational, even if we're not. So part of it is this idea of consciously recognizing that every family is a steward, a trustee of a family cultural heritage. And that in our own generation, we have the opportunity, the obligation, the responsibility to preserve the good from the past, improve it in our generation, pass it on to the next, ad infinitum, etc. So that's one nutshell. We can get there's a lot of details and things that we'll probably be talking about as we going on, mm-hmm. But yeah, it's literally even in the phrase multi-generational family is it goes throughout time. So, yeah.
So the faith that you have gets perpetuated, keeps going. This doesn't seem to be an idea that necessarily most Christians understand, or even I don't think even men like ourselves, we even originally had this. Like, we came to this realization, right? So what was it that had to shift in your mind to really kind of get you into this multi-generational family concept?
Yes. So maybe as a point of contrast, for me, assumptions. We all have assumptions. And jumping ahead, it was literally a day that a friend of mine introduced this idea to me that I'd never honestly heard of. But But one of the things he described to me is that I am a Western cultural father, family man, even as a Christian. And part of what that meant is that I had an individualistic assumption and also a kind of a contrast to the phrase multi-generational, a mono-generational assumption. I thought everything that I'm going to do in my lifetime is literally that's about the extent of my impact is in my lifetime. So the change is showing from this is the Bible. The Bible when it shows families, you think of Abraham, he is to pass on the covenant to Isaac, who is to pass on Jacob, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't. So it's there. It's right there in front of our face. So that revelation was the major change right there that broke the individual one lifetime mentality. So
yeah. Why do you think that it is that most Christians today and still struggle with this idea? Like, how come they can't break free of that individual concept and get into this generational perspective?
Sure, and I mean, part of what, as I said, is this is the default culture, even in the evangelical culture. And another subject when you get into this is the idea of cultural formation. We are well trained by our culture. So maybe even the introducing the idea is not necessarily enough for most families. Is like, not only are you trained in this, you're trained in to love your cultural assumptions. So it's not surprising that would be a hard transition, and it has life implications.
Right.
All right. Your life is going to, if you make this change theologically, mentally, intellectually, it will change your life. And so there's also there could be some good godly fear if you're starting to get this, but it could also be a block for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that, that guys, they'll, even men and women inside the church, the anticipation, the expectation is that I have children and I certainly love my children, and I can't wait for them to grow up, turn 18, and go figure it out.
Yeah.
And just, and there you go. I did what I could. I'm here for you, and I love you.
Yeah.
But, God be with you.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about this is different.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking about no. I want you to work with me, to continue working with me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Let me just. This was occurring to me as you're saying that right now. That's another aspect of another way of talking about. I'm just using this as a label, the Western individualistic label. You can different labels, but part of that assumption, that family assumption, is that what the family is for is launching off individuals to pursue their individual whatever calling. Now there's like anything, there's a grain of truth in that. There's an individual aspect. Right. But as you're saying that if we look into the theology of multi-generational living, which is a covenantal living, covenant implies you have a heritage that you preserve and you pass on.
Right.
And part of also this is a theology of fatherhood and sonship. You have been given something, and you preserve and you pass it on to children. So granted, there's individual things, but you as fathers, mothers, etc., there is an element of children. This is the gospel that has been handed to us regarding, and we're not suggesting this,
right,
for you. All right, This is we are passing it on. All right. So anyway, I don't know if that totally answers your question, but that's one aspect of contrasting the. Yeah, do your own thing. Yeah.
Somebody I remember reading was talking about the difference between like the atomistic family and the trustee family.
Yes.
Where atomistic is composed of completely independent, individuals that are all their own beautiful snowflakes and should go out and blaze their own trail.
Yeah.
Right. And so that means all of our focus, all of our efforts, they start and they live and they die with us,
Right.
through the extent of our lifetime. So you better go for the gusto, go for everything that you can possibly get in your lifetime, and and run the rat race, because when you're done, that's it, right? Versus the contrast of a trustee family that says, no, we have a trust that we have within our possession, that we are the stewards over, and I am responsible for being the steward of it now, and I am preparing you to transfer you to be the steward over this trust of our possessions, of our assets, of our faith, of our commonality, of our vision, of our purpose, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Revolutionary.
Yeah.
So how else does this really radically change your thinking if you come into this multi-generational family viewpoint? What sort of implications does it mean for dads?
Sure. Hold on one second. It has lots of implications. Here's one, and there's a flip side to this. There's a kind of the challenging, scary aspect, but all those are also inspirational, motivating aspects. But one is, as fathers and mothers, we're responsible for the training of our children, and it's the intensity that we need to be training our children is very high. So this implies a lot of time invested in training our children. So that is one implication is you have fathers. If this is kind of a new idea, you're going to quickly say, "Wow, you're responsible to craft the discipleship of your children." So maybe I'm thinking of for myself and other new fathers. If this is a new idea, and maybe the first thing's like, well, I don't know. Well, there's your first task.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. No, you need to start.
You got to go
figuring it out.
You got to get some learning.
Yeah. And that's okay. And I would say that for a man to be able to say, I really don't know much about this, and cares enough to say, I want to try to find out. I want to try to understand. Like, that's a really, really critical aspect of this part, right? For a man to know that there's things he doesn't know that he probably needs to know. Yeah,
absolutely. But as challenging that is, it's inspiring. Is another aspect of this is that investment in your children. I think that the seeds. This is going to have, another way of contrast. Rather than just, your 70 years. You now have hundreds of years of impact by investing in these children, and that's motivating. All right, and this is going to be passed on. There, dozens, hundreds of descendants. So, through the hard work, remembering that is like, there's some motivation there.
Yeah. I know that one of the things that kind of revolutionizes your thinking along this vein is that what sort of wealth, what sort of treasure are you laying up, right?
Good question.
We're storing up treasures in heaven. So how has your understanding of treasure and wealth kind of been shaped and molded through this process?
Good question. Couple of things here. When you study multi-generational families, covenant succession, it's both. You can think of wealth as a metaphor, but sometimes metaphor you think is not real. No, there's this real wealth, but another way of talking about it is you are preserving wealth, creating wealth, passing on wealth. Wealth we commonly think of as material wealth. The more important foundational wealth is spiritual wealth. Okay, so ultimately, this is, I'd say, is the gospel, the culture of the kingdom, etc. And that is a wealth that is passed on. Now, with that said, here's one thing that you will learn. I learned when you study covenantal faithfulness, multi-generational faithfulness. God designed us to also preserve and create material economic wealth as well. That cannot be shunned. Yeah. So in addition to the spiritual wealth, there's another implication. Covenant fathers, multi-generational fathers, if wealth building and preservation was not your quote-unquote thing, it's now your thing. All right? So you're going to have to learn business investments. And actually, I'll just confession right here. That in some ways that was not my thing in some regards, and it's a lot of times I have to make it my thing.
Yeah.
And I'm in a learning stage there myself. So, but it is a responsibility now.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway.
Yeah. So I know that when we're talking about the building wealth and continuing on, the critical crux of multi-generational faithfulness is the next generation, right? Like, yes, we are the current trustees over the family's wealth, assets, their spiritual wealth also, but we also need to be concerned about cultivating the next generation, preparing them.
Right.
Because if we don't do that, then we're basically going to be a stop, right?
Right.
So now, I've kind of been going here for a little bit. You've been kind of been pursuing this. How, what sort of challenges are we trying to overcome here with regard to the second generation starting to walk into picking up the mantle here, and the relationship still existing between the first generation, second generations, and subsequent ones?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I'll just say for myself, in one sense, I've been walking in this for a handful of years now as a point of study and implementation as a younger family. But my oldest are in their teen years, and so we're anticipating the transition to young adulthood. Let me say that this part of this, when the subject comes up, some of the concerns or critiques is on in contrast to individualism. The answer to individualism is not collectivism. Okay, our God is a triune God, God of the one and many. So there's many errors that families can flip over to the other side.
Right.
I know I'm getting a little abstract here, but my point is, there is an element for families. Okay, we're transitioning now into the second generation adulthood. There's both an element of we are now an extended family. We're going to work as an extended family, but there is also their men and women. They are now their individual adults, and they will create their own households, and so that element has to be protected as well. So I'm finding how to think about and talk about that as a family, with still the oldest being teens, and making plans for like the next decade is our biggest challenge. Trying to preserve both those things and coming with ideas where we're not going to violate either principle, if that makes sense. So, I could get into some particular examples of things we talk about, but that's that's what we talk kind of in a sense most about as a family right now, with the subject of multi-generational family thinking and planning.
Yeah, so we have to kind of maintain the independence of individual families,
right?
But then still kind of establish how the relationships are going to work between the two. So this is something we had kind of talked about before, right? The concept of governance, right? So how does that piece fit into the inner workings of these relationships inside of the family?
Sure. You can take this in a couple directions, and I'll just maybe jump in as you bring up governance. This is one thing that comes out of studying multi-generational families, covenantal succession, and I would say this is probably not what people would necessarily guess is an aspect of this issue of governance. And maybe a quick translation, just think of decision-making as a group. But it turns out that is a it is a necessary component, in this case for families, to talk about. So let me just throw it. This is one of the authors that J. Hughes, the way he talks about it is, with multi-generational families, one goal is that the next generation makes better decisions than the previous one.
Right.
Okay. So one implication is families even now need to practice making decisions together. And sometimes it even almost, quote unquote, doesn't matter it's a discipline. All right. Now there should be real things that apply to, but that is something that families should be practicing. Like, hey, we're going to make some decisions together. This is why business is a great thing, but it could be family projects, vacations, etc. So that's one thing we incorporate now is a regular, and this is another principle, regular rhythm. So we force ourselves once a week to work family decision making on what's going on. So that's an immediate thing we're doing right now. But I would maybe just to wrap that point up, or just thinking about the other aspect I'm thinking of is once you get into that second generation, now you're having two, in multiple households. In some form or fashion, that extended family needs to have, if it's not a business and a common ministry or something, it needs to have a real common project where real decisions are being made.
Right.
Yeah,
this is something that that we do in our family, and I think I heard you talking about it earlier. It's something that you guys do. We have regular family meetings, and so we do ours once a month, where we are talking about what's happening on the schedule, like what sort of things are we doing, what are different people involved in, what is it that you're trying to accomplish, what is it you're trying to accomplish. These are the tasks that I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to enlist other children's help, say, hey, here's a project that I am trying to get done. Can you help? Can you run it to ground? Can you manage it? Can you whatever, set checkpoints of following up and things like that. So that's something that I had started doing. How did you, because you said were having family meetings too. Right. How does that fall into this exercise of practicing, basically good, healthy family relationships, right? To maintain the one and many distinctions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I would say, and let me just say, quite honestly, I think we have, I think, a once a month rhythm specifically on the family business meeting, Sunday evenings. If it's not a business meeting, it's a training meeting. But yeah, the business meetings are just, I think, very similar to what you just said. It's real. I guess we don't need to make up something for decision making. There's always life.
There's lots of stuff happening.
Life happens. I guess the difference though is, it's theoretic possible where it's like, oh, mom and dad are just going to deal with this, inform the kids later. But there's some things that's like, well, why not? Let's you teach and train. Hey, here's a family decision. I'm dad. I have authority, but I can ask for you guys to think about this and give input. Right. And we've had. Examples where in those meetings, I even had sometimes where it's like I had a preference and my kids had a stronger other preference. And I said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's not my preference. I'm going to honor that. And we're going to implement what you guys do here.
Yeah.
So, that's just a little tiny example of how you can incorporate the family for implement the decisions, go into action. So
yeah, it could be something as small as like where we go for our Saturday drive,
exactly,
or Sunday drive, or sometimes what we want to eat for special meals, or
yes,
or maybe sometimes and I've noticed this too in my family. They were like, "Hey, Dad, we haven't got together with so and so this family in a while. Why don't we try to put that?" I was like, "Hey, you know what? That's a good idea. I love that. Let's get it on the calendar." Let's get in touch. Mom, hey, Mom, you reach out, or even I'll assign one of the kids as some sort of exercise. Hey, can you reach out to that family and say, hey, we want to get together with you, and we'll hash out, here's the calendar, here's what we have, here's what we have available, and kind of help spur that.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can just interject another thing, Joe, on that subject, I'm thinking about it as a kind of one of these points of contrast to our Western cultural world. A lot of the things we're talking about, people will recognize. We recognize that in the business world and context.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I introduce these things, people maybe sometimes start assume that, oh, you're just taking that sounds like business. You're just taking business things and applying it to the family. Well, part of the reason that assumption is there is because our current generation, it's those kind of things are only in the business world. They're not in the family.
Right.
Now we can do that. You were mentioning the trustee fee and the trustee family, atomistic family. Those who study this realize in times past, these things. Well, the family was the economy, and so all these things. It's just because as Americans we don't realize it. So
right. These concepts have been taken from family principles.
Yes.
The interrelationships between families that are dependent upon their economies to, them to work properly.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and our culture now has just shifted so far away from family interworking in a business sense, in a cultural sense, in a dinner, in marriages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we've allowed this individualism to perpetuate, but the businesses we're mastering how to execute good businesses.
Yeah.
And it almost seems kind of like, oh, you're just trying to bring it back in. We're like, no, we're just trying to reestablish the way this is supposed to work.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's ironic. It's the other way around. It's actually, I think it's
right.
Businesses follow good family practices from times past.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but the point here is, and this is my friend Jeremy Pryor, the way he talks about is building family teams. Because we expect that in the business world. Oh, we have problems. We need, meeting to fix this problem,
a committee or something.
Yeah. Your family's a team. It needs those disciplines as well. So anyway.
Yeah, to be a functional one, sure.
Yeah.
So just real quick, can you tell us? We have the your book that you wrote. Can you just let us know a little bit about the book? And,
sure.
And then I'm hoping that we should be able to offer your book here through Reconstruction Life, so they can get it here. Obviously, they can go to Amazon. But can you just tell us a little bit about it, what it's about, and how it can help people?
Sure, yeah. Let's see if I can do this as concisely and briefly as possible. So it's already there's so much there, but maybe one point to jump off of is when I studied this subject intensively, the practical, what do multi-generational families do, non-Christian authors. I'm not the theology or anything, like, okay, what are some practical disciplines? So it didn't take long, whereas I realized, there needs to be a Christian book, because obviously non-Christian authors, it's all mixed in with false worldview and wrong actually wrong. It's a mixture of good applications and bad.
And then the pragmatism can just pull you in a direction that's unbiblical.
Yeah, absolutely,
and how do you say, well, don't go that way?
Yeah, yeah. And as I'm thinking about it right now, I'll just say this is exciting. Is ironic when these non-Christian authors say you need to have a spiritual vision mission, and what they didn't know. It's like go grab something, it was American freedom, yay,
off the shelf, yeah.
And so
some principles. Let's get some principles.
Yeah,
in there
but they reckon, and part of it there's true is that you do need a vision and mission. It's true.
Yeah.
But just watching them just grab in the air,
yeah.
So here's inspiring. It's like, yeah, Christians, we have the covenant. I mean, this is anyway. It's so I was very motivated to okay, the Bible of the theology is already there. Here's some practical tools I'm learning from these guys. So getting back to the book, it's a theology of multi-generational families. I keep, in case it's confusing to anyone, I keep using the word covenantal. Without maybe being able to explain it all right now, here's a synopsis. The way I say it is, families are multi-generational because they are covenantal. Okay, covenant implies inheritance. You're passing on a faith to the next generation, etc. But structurally, I'd say the book. Well, one thing I discovered, and we've already kind of gone over in some form or fashion, kind of big areas, the multi-generational disciplines, a discipleship plan, a governance plan, and an economic plan. Mm-hmm. So those in this book, it's focused on the governance aspect, and just because the nature of what was going on when I wrote the book. And I do touch on the other ones, but Lord willing, there will be another book at some point that flush out in more detail the discipleship and wealth building aspects as well.
Great.
Yeah.
And the book is called
It is called Families in Covenant Succession, a Manual for Multi-Generational Faithfulness.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's got a good long title.
Yeah,
so
I have to think about it sometimes because I went through some variations of titles, and so sometimes I get it wrong.
Remember which one.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think this is great. I'm really, really excited about the work that you're doing, and I do. I believe in it. So even though I didn't get sold on it because of your book, I have read the book, and I thought that it was very, very helpful, fantastic resource.
Thank you.
And so I think that it should definitely get into more of our brothers and sisters' hands, and that it helps them and encourages them and blesses them. So appreciate your time so much. Thank you so much for joining us here on the podcast. Hopefully we'll be able to get you on again sometime in the future when we talk a little bit more about what you're doing. So.
All right. Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks. All right, guys, we're back here with ReconCast. Hey, listen, dads, you need to get on board with this program. You need to listen to the stuff that Jason is talking about. You need to buy his book. You need to start thinking about the kind of impact that you can make by pouring into your own family on a multi-generational level. This is critical. This is crucial. I want every dad out there who's listening to start getting serious about taking their faith to a multi-generational level. Right, Dan?
Oh, man, so inspiring and encouraging to know that it's not just in the office or in the workplace that we make a big impact. We, as dads, can make an impact right now. But I'll tell you, it is hard to stay with it. And that's okay. That's why we have this show, because we're going to encourage each other in the things that are difficult, because difficult things are what's worth it. And it is so worth being involved on a multi-generational vision with our family.
Yeah, I really wish that there was more that we could talk about on this episode. We'll bring this subject back up again later. Maybe we'll get a little bit more tactical. But I just want to open our listeners' ears up to the idea that maximizing kingdom impact can come through the propagation of the faith and through the allocation of assets that the family collects over time. That can make a huge, huge difference. And you want to talk about compounding growth. You start compounding growth across generations, and we're going to make a massive kingdom impact. So this is something that's definitely driving my family. I'm thinking about it. I know Dan's thinking about it. This is why we spend the time that we do with our families, doing the day-to-day discipleship, doing the family worship, because we're trying to create traditions and rhythms and identity within our family so that they will know who we are, who their dads are, they'll know who their moms are, and they'll know what kind of people we are and what we stand for, and how we're taking the gospel to another level beyond what the rest of the culture is doing, even the church. So anyway, so that was the episode for you guys. Hey, I hope you guys are really enjoying. I hope you guys are really enjoying the podcast. Welcome to all of our Reconstructionist Radio listeners. Welcome back to all of our current listeners. You guys join into the conversation with us. You can always send us comments or messages on our Facebook page. You can watch our videos on YouTube. And you can also email us. You can email me at extremedad@reconstructionlife.com, or you can email Dan at reconstructionlife.com. He's over there too as well. So we're trying to get engaged with this with the show with you guys, and we want to know what kind of things you guys are thinking about, and what you want to hear about. So talk back to us, comment to us, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. So appreciate it being on the show with you today, Dan. It was great, buddy.
Absolutely. What a great show. I really enjoyed it. Hope everybody had fun. I had a great time.
Yeah, by the way, I'm getting comments on the website that says, hey, Joe and Dan, you don't have enough episodes. So we need to get going.
All right, we're on this.
More.
All
right.
Well, okay. Look forward to next time, Joe.
All right, brother. Sounds good. All right, thanks for joining us, you guys. See ya.